This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Burgamy.
Yes, it is true, friends. Our week just would not be complete if we weren't able to bring you all the latest ag news and features from around Georgia and beyond. Over here to my left, the legendary Kenny Burgamy and those golden pipes. What say you, Mr. B?
I say we've got another great show. Straight ahead on the program, from the get-go, it was a recipe for sweet success. Join us as the Monitor takes you inside the daily operations of the Mascot Pecan Shelling Company. Also on the program, he's struggling with addiction to exotic birds. Seriously, that's what he calls it, an addiction, and it all started as a youngster when his dad gave him some chickens to care for. And then later, first introduced in the 90s, it's technology that just keeps getting better with age. The Monitor talks to an expert about yield mapping and how it continues to aid farmers in their day-to-day business operations. These stories and so much more start right now on the Farm Monitor.
Often overlooked, rural Georgia is the lifeblood of the state. And at the root of it all, agriculture. To show just how important rural Georgia is and why ag is so vital in the success of rural areas, our John Holcomb traveled to Taylor County.
Welcome to rural Georgia, a place where there are fewer cars on the roads. Everyone knows their neighbor, and farm equipment on the roads is a normal thing. And the people here, well, that's just how they like it.
I mean, people like to have a little room to call their own. It's safer for their children. I like to think we're a little more easygoing in the country than they are in the city.
The reality is that in rural areas, there's not a whole lot around. One thing you can find just about everywhere you look, though, is agriculture.
It's tremendous. Taylor County, of course, has changed a lot over the years. It used to be a lot more watermelons and peaches than it is now, but it's, 3/4 of the income in Taylor County is actually agriculture or selling to farmers.
One person who can attest to how important it is to rural areas is Mike Montgomery, a producer in Taylor County.
I'm a third-generation farmer. I farmed my granddaddy and my daddy, and we farm about 1,600 acres of row crop stuff, mainly cotton and peanuts and corn and wheat and a little bit of soybeans.
Agriculture plays a huge role in the economy in rural areas, both directly and indirectly, by giving people jobs and also by generating revenue.
I think ag has a huge impact on the local economy and, rural area around here. Provides a lot of jobs, and I think it helps a lot of businesses around town, and Reynolds and Butler, keep going. I know we spend a lot at the parts stores and, Bears and Butler and the Napa and Reynolds here. So I know, it's good for them, their income and all, and the people that get jobs on the farms and at the gins and other areas around here, the peach packing place in Reynolds there. And so, and I don't know, we're always in town, buying something, for the farm.
One local business owner that knows what kind of an impact ag can have is Bo Barrow. He runs this store, Barrow Automotive, in which he sells hardware supplies, but is most known for his impressive gun selection.
Well, I started in 1968. Mr. Paul Keenan out of Albany, Georgia, put me in auto parts business. I had a 20 by 60 building on the square in Butler. I stayed there for 2 years, and I moved across the street for 2 years, and then I built the building, the local building I'm in now, in 1972. And we went into auto and hardware combination. And then we got into the guns through the hardware people.
Reporting in Butler for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
What started off as just a small pit stop for travelers more than 60 years ago has now grown into one of the largest pecan shelling and candy making businesses in Georgia. The Monitor traveled to Tattnall County and gives you a behind-the-scenes look at what it takes for Mascot Pecan Shelling Company to get their products out to you, the consumer.
Mascot Pecan Company was started by my father in 1953, and it was a gas station slash gift shop along the way from the Northeast corridor down to Florida. And the business soon outgrew my mom's ability to shell the pecans by hand, and that is how my dad got started in the pecan shelling business. And then skip 20 years, skip 30 years, I come along. I was interested in what's called a value-added pecan business, which we started roasting and salting pecans first. We started using pecans as ingredients in candies, and from there we grew into the candy business.
We send them through our shelling our sizing process, and then the nuts are sized by the diameter of the pecan. Then we take those into our shelling operation to where they're dumped into bins, and the bins are conditioned with water to make the nut high in moisture. And then when we run it through our shelling processing, that kind of acts like a sponge to make sure that we shell more halves instead of breaking it into pieces. And once we have the nuts that are shelled, they go through a drying process to bring it down to about 4% moisture. Then they go over various screens to size out pieces. So when you market something with pecan halves, people are always going to want every pecan to be a half. So we try to size out accordingly and get all the pieces out to make sure that the consumer has the best quality product.
We went from using only pecans as an ingredient to over 35 different flavors, which include now peanut butter, mint, coconut, pecans, cashews, everything that you can name. We have chocolate coating lines that do about 6,000 pounds in an 8-hour shift. We have 3 of those. And we have a peanut brittle processing line that puts out 1,100 pounds per hour. We have a nut square line that puts out about 800 or 900 pounds an hour. And we'll shell around 6 million pounds of pecans from October through March. My brother is also a 50% owner with myself, and he has 2 boys here, and I have 1 son here. So it's nice to have your family.
We've been blessed by being able to expand a good bit. Business has been good, and we've brought in probably 20 to 30 more jobs over the past 2 or 3 years. Yeah, it's good to see consumers come in and get such good feedback of the hard work that we put in. It's always something new every day. It's never the same monotonous job every day.
After the break, he's considered one of the best when it comes to breeding rare and exotic birds, some on the brink of extinction. Hear for yourself how this UGA grad became what he calls a bird addict. Stay tuned.
The spotted lanternfly is an invasive pest found in several counties in the northeast United States and is threatening American agriculture and natural resources.
It damages more than 70 types of plants, including grapevines, fruit trees, and hardwoods.
We need your help to look for and report it. Spotted lanternflies excrete a sticky fluid that promotes mold growth and weakens plants. First seen in Pennsylvania in 2014, this invasive pest has been found in nearby states because people unknowingly moved infested materials or items containing egg masses. Most states are at risk because this pest, in all stages, can easily hitchhike on things we move. So to stop the spread of spotted lanternfly, we're working with state and local partners and you. Look for spotted lanternflies year-round. When they're young, in spring and summer, they are black with white spots and turn red as they mature. Adults with their colorful wings are easy to spot in late summer and fall. Newly laid egg masses look like wet gray putty before turning dull and brown, like cracked mud. Look for egg masses in fall, winter, and spring on all variety of outdoor surfaces like trees, bricks, stones, fences, grills, outdoor equipment, and vehicles. They gather in groups and feed on trees, especially the invasive tree of heaven or Ailanthus, its preferred host.
If you see spotted lanternfly, report it. Contact your State Department of Agriculture or Cooperative Extension Office. Learn more at the Hungry Pests website, aphis.usda.gov/hungrypests/SLF.
At first glance, one might assume they're watching video filmed in some African jungle or maybe a special zoo for exotic birds. That assumption, however, would be wrong. In fact, I'm standing here in Madison County, and all these birds you hear and see, all 2,000 of them, an estimation, by the way, they belong to one individual. Meet Vince Hicks, a recent UGA grad who received his degree in avian biology. Vince's obsession, or as he puts it, addiction to birds, began at the tender young age of 4 when his dad bought him a couple of Rhode Island red chickens. At first, Vince's operation was small, but then, kind of like now, it grew at a rapid pace.
I think you got to be born with kind of a hoarding gene to begin with, but so I would save all the money off the eggs that I got, and buy feed, and then whatever I had left over, I would go through the Murray catalogs that they would send me, and I would try to pick out what types of chickens I was going to get, and I'd order 25 more, and then, after a couple years doing that, you got 15, 20 different types of chickens, and it kind of just went from there.
In fact, according to Vince, it was at the age of 16 when his passion for exotic birds really took flight. Now at 23, he works 4 jobs to support his spending habits. They include everything from taking care of rental properties to working directly with Dr. Adam Davis in UGA's Poultry Science Research Lab.
Being addicted to birds, you got a big feed bill, so you've got to be able to fund it. And it's like there's certain birds that, yeah, you could make good money on if you wanted to, but my problem is I'm trying to build the collection, so every time I hatch something, I'm trying to trade it with somebody to get something else I don't have. And if you're in this for money, you're probably not a very good hobby, because if you're addicted like I am, you're just buying more birds. It's never enough,
Rattle off the bird species that you have.
Oh Lord, I don't know. I've got multiple species of ducks, geese, swans, swamp hens, thick knees, lapwings, lots of pheasants, tinamou, francolins, a couple of parakeets, different types of hookbills, quail, partridge, just more. It goes on from there. So, there's a lot of birds that are just really flamboyant and beautiful that everybody likes, but I tend to like the birds that are more rare and nobody really keeps because there's not as many of them, and they're maybe not as pretty, but somebody needs to be breeding them or they're not going to be around. And then I have birds like the Victoria crown pigeon that one day I hope to have here, because they're just amazingly beautiful, but it's just so expensive at this point. To move up that ladder, you got to work at it every day, I guess. About every week, I'm headed somewhere to pick up some birds. Somebody will call and say that they're getting too old, or that maybe they just have birds for sale, and I'll have saved up a little money and I'll go buy. I got back from Tampa yesterday picking up birds. I've traveled out to Louisiana and pick up birds, and all over the Southeast. And if they're further, I'll get them shipped, unless it's a large quantity of birds, then I would drive and pick them up.
Even more impressive than his variety of birds are the cages in which they're housed in. Each one hand-built personally by Vince and family members.
Well, my cousin Warren, he's been a big help. He's retired, and so in his off time, he even builds some pens without my help, and he'll come help me build aviaries, and we'll spend all day sometimes digging trenches to bury metal and putting wire up, and just it's actually a lot of fun when you have people that you like and help you with it.
Now, as far as that degree in avian biology, Vince admits it's going to be difficult putting it to good use because of his collection, something he'll explain here shortly. For now, though, Vince tells me he'll continue working those 4 jobs to support his habit. However, don't be surprised if you see him someday sporting a white coat and checking your vitals.
So it's kind of complicated, because with being an avian biology major, a lot of the people are going into the industry, And the biosecurity I've knocked myself out of about 90% of the jobs because they don't want you having birds at home when you work in the industry a lot of the times. So I've always said I want to go to medical school, but recently Dr. Davis has talked me into getting my PhD if I can get into that. So I need a job that can support my addiction because.
So you say addiction, I mean, are you addicted to birds?
Oh, it's awful. It's beyond awful.
Do we need an intervention here or what?
I don't know. My dad always told me he guessed it's better than drugs, and he used to complain about all the pens getting built in the yard, and he would say it looks like a junkyard, and then when somebody comes to look, he wants to show it off. So I think it's pretty interesting how people react. But yeah, it's an addiction. It's pretty awful, and I don't think it gets better. So.
Nothing wrong with a few birds here and there, Vince. Birds are cool. Now, something else that's cool, farmers making money. Up next, how yield mapping continues to help them see green in both their fields and their wallet.
Pollination is the transfer of pollen from the male parts of a flower to the female parts of the same or a different flower. This is necessary for the production of seed and fruit in many crops. The annual value of pollination to Georgia agriculture is over $360 million. While many insects such as flies, beetles, moths, butterflies, and wasps can be important pollinators, bees outperform them all because of their dietary need for pollen and nectar, their hairy bodies that carry pollen grains easily, and their rapid flight from flower to flower. When we think of bees, most of us think of managed honeybees kept in hives. Honeybees certainly contribute to pollination, but they cannot match the volume of pollination provided, free of charge, by the hundreds of species of wild bees that live unnoticed in hollow stems or underground burrows. Homeowners, farmers, and honeybee keepers can all play a major role in pollinator conservation. For homeowners, even the smallest landscape, when thoughtfully managed, can aid pollinating insects. Bees need a season-long, unbroken succession of blooming flowers. Since many plant species bloom in the spring, homeowners should focus on planting summer and early fall bloomers, such as asters, sunflowers, and goldenrod. Homeowners are able to preserve undisturbed property for our wild bees. Sun-drenched patches of bare soil, ditch banks, and woodland edges are prime bee habitats for all of our native bees. To protect our pollinator populations, think of pesticide as the last step in combating a pest problem, not the first. Your local UGA Cooperative Extension agent can assist you in finding non-chemical options. Farmers should consider creating bee sanctuaries out of unused farm spaces. In certain cropping systems, the benefits of enhanced pollinator conservation from bee forage and nesting sites exceeds the cost of land diverted from production. Honey beekeepers are important partners in bee conservation. Beekeepers are encouraged to join their local beekeeping organization and to attend beekeeping classes to stay up to date on best practices for keeping their bees healthy and safe from pesticides. For Georgia to lead the way in pollinator conservation, homeowners, farmers, honey beekeepers, all of us must take an active role. For more information, contact your local UGA Cooperative Extension office.
Finally this week, let's face it, technology nowadays is simply amazing and life-changing. Things like Siri, Alexa, self-driving cars, just to name a few. In agriculture, the technology that's now available is just as amazing as it can help producers make decisions to help their bottom line. John Holcomb spoke with a precision ag specialist about this ongoing and often jaw-dropping evolution.
Farming has been around since the dawn of time, and since its very humble beginning, a lot has changed, especially the equipment and technology that's used, which allows farmers to do a lot more with a lot less, which can be attributed to researchers and research institutions like the University of Georgia and a thing called precision agriculture.
Precision ag on the basic level is just using technologies, whether that's an actual physical technology or tool, from like a machine system, a computer controller, computer, etc., or a technique, and applying it to a production practice so that we can improve our production practices and become more profitable. In the end, whether it's gaining more yield, whether it's better matching our inputs, or like I said, at the end, what we want to do is become more profitable, but utilizing that technology to do that.
One way producers do that is by utilizing yield mapping technology, which use sensors that can be added to grain and cotton harvesters that produce an image like this one of the different zones around a producer's fields.
So a yield map basically ends up becoming the end-all, tell-all of what we've done throughout the year. It's how good did we do spatially throughout that field. And so all producers are going to know, where my low-yielding spots are at, my high-yielding spots are at. But what this does is actually quantifies those for me throughout my fields and across my farm. So that map ends up becoming, or can become, a powerful tool for us to use throughout the rest of the year.
The yield maps, which are merged with different types of information like soil types and different inputs, combines the data which can be translated to producers to allow them to see just how profitable or how not so profitable their fields are.
When we bring the quantification back to it, we know how high is, how low is, and then we use that data and we combine it with our production costs. So we overlay production costs on top of that, and then take a current crop price and see what our we actually going to get paid for that yield of that crop minus our production cost. Off of that, we see what our profitability is. So once we start understanding spatially throughout that field, or spatially throughout an entire farm, where we're consistently profitable, or we're potentially consistently losing money in that farm, or we're just breaking even.
Once producers see the data, they can make planning, fertilizing, watering, and other decisions for their farm to make sure they're not losing money. Because at the end of the day, farming operations are like businesses. They need to make money, or at least break even, in order to survive.
What can we do at that point to make production changes to make sure that we stay above that break-even point? So there's a lot of things there. If we look at what our input costs are and what they're tied back to, seeding rate, of course, is one that everybody talks about really quickly. Fertility management is another. Is there some sort of spray regime or something that we've done out in that farm that's changed that we need to look at a little bit differently? Is there land that's never profitable? So if there's land that's never profitable, we might need to take and start looking at changing either the crop that we grow there, whether that's just to another different crop rotation, or do we need to switch it to something like pine trees, take it out of production? Do we need to look at some other option or alternative?
Reporting in Tifton for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
John, thank you so much, and thank you for watching the Farm Monitor.
Before we go, just a friendly reminder that for all the latest ag info regarding food, great recipes, and what's happening down on the farm, be sure you check out our Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest pages. You'll stay informed and see what's up in the world of farming and with us here on the show. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week here on the Farm Monitor. Have a great week.
Be safe.